Oxygen disappears for 5 seconds. Not the air, just the oxygen, gone from everything, everywhere, all at once. And you survive it easily. You could hold your breath for 5 seconds without noticing. But when it comes back, you're standing in the ruins of every concrete structure on Earth, under a sky that has turned black in daylight, with a sunburn you got in about 2 seconds, on ground where every ocean has begun to evaporate. Breathing was never the problem. Oxygen was holding up the world. Let's be exact about what we're removing, because the details decide everything. Every oxygen atom vanishes for 5 seconds. Not just the oxygen you breathe, all of it. The O2 in the air, the oxygen bound inside water, inside rock, inside concrete, inside your own body. Then, after 5 seconds, every atom returns exactly where it was. That precision matters, because free-floating oxygen gas is only a fraction of the story. Here's the fact that reframes this entire scenario. Oxygen is the most abundant element in Earth's crust by mass. Roughly 47% of the ground beneath you, by weight, is oxygen atoms locked into minerals. It's about 89% of water by mass. It's a large fraction of you. Oxygen isn't something Earth contains. It's something Earth is made of. So let's run the 5 seconds. Second one, the sky goes dark. The daytime sky is blue because air molecules scatter sunlight, and shorter blue wavelengths scatter most. Remove a fifth of the atmosphere's particles instantly, and that scattering weakens dramatically. The sky doesn't fade. It dims and darkens toward black in daylight in about a second. Anyone outdoors watches the atmosphere lose its color. Second one, still. Everything made of concrete falls down. This is the one nobody expects. Concrete is bound together by hydrated compounds, and oxygen is a structural part of those compounds. Take the oxygen out and you aren't weakening concrete. You're deleting a large share of the atoms holding it together. Every concrete structure on Earth crumbles into loose dust in the same instant. Not cracks, not collapse over minutes. Instant structural failure everywhere, simultaneously. Skyscrapers, bridges, dams, foundations, tunnels, runways, every road surface, the buildings you're standing in. 5 seconds later, the oxygen returns, but the atoms don't reassemble into concrete. Chemistry doesn't work backward. Concrete forms through a curing reaction that takes weeks. What you get back is powder. Every city on Earth becomes rubble in the first second of this scenario, and no amount of oxygen returning fixes it. Second two, you get sunburned. The ozone layer is made of oxygen, O3. Remove oxygen, and ozone ceases to exist for those 5 seconds, and Earth's ultraviolet shield vanishes with it. Everyone on the daylight side receives a sudden, intense dose of ultraviolet radiation. Estimates suggest sunburn on the order of a couple of seconds of exposure. Painful, but survivable, and the ozone layer would reform when the oxygen returns. Second three, the inner ear problem. Air is about 21% oxygen by volume. Remove it instantly, and atmospheric pressure drops sharply. Roughly a fifth of the air is simply gone. The pressure change would be abrupt enough to affect the middle ear, since the eardrum can't equalize that fast. Ruptured eardrums are a plausible, widespread consequence. Second four, every combustion engine stops, and everything burning goes out. Fire requires free oxygen. Every flame on Earth extinguishes instantly. Every internal combustion engine stalls mid-cycle. Every jet engine flames out, which means every aircraft in flight, hundreds of thousands of people at any given moment, loses power simultaneously. And the same second, the oceans start to evaporate. Water is H2O. Remove the oxygen, and what remains is hydrogen gas. The oceans don't drain away. Their oxygen simply ceases to exist. and the hydrogen expands violently into the atmosphere. Every body of water on Earth, oceans, lakes, rivers, the water in your cells, becomes free hydrogen for 5 seconds. When oxygen returns, it doesn't gently reassemble into water. It encounters an atmosphere now loaded with free hydrogen. Hydrogen and oxygen together, given any ignition source, react energetically. And this scenario has just filled the sky with both. Second 5. Your own cells. You'd survive not breathing. That's trivial. But the water inside your body is roughly 60% of you, and it contains oxygen. For 5 seconds, your cells lose a substantial fraction of their atoms. Here, the honest answer is that we're past the edge of what physics can meaningfully predict. There is no experiment, no model, no observed process that tells us what happens to a living organism when a large share of its constituent atoms vanish and return. This part of the scenario isn't a calculation, it's a story. Then the oxygen comes back, and this is where the scenario stops being a list of damage and becomes something stranger, because returning the atoms doesn't return the arrangements. Chemistry isn't a filing system where atoms slot back into place. Every structure, concrete, water, rock, tissue, is a specific configuration built by a specific process, most of which took energy, time, and conditions that no longer apply. You'd get every oxygen atom back and still be standing in a ruined world, because the value was never in the atoms. It was in how they were arranged. That's the genuine lesson buried in this hypothetical. We tend to think of oxygen as the thing we breathe. Breathing is almost an afterthought. Oxygen is the element that makes rock rigid, water liquid, buildings stand, and the sky blue. It's the scaffolding of the planet's chemistry. And we notice roughly 1% of what it does, because that 1% keeps us alive, minute to minute. And there's a final irony worth sitting with. None of this oxygen was here originally. Early Earth's atmosphere had almost none. It was produced over roughly 2 billion years by photosynthetic microorganisms, cyanobacteria, exhaling it as waste. That accumulation, sometimes called the Great Oxidation Event, was catastrophic for much of the life that existed at the time. Oxygen is chemically aggressive. For organisms that hadn't adapted to it, it was poison. One of the largest extinction events in Earth's history may have been caused by pollution from bacteria. Everything we've built stands on the waste product of an ancient ecological disaster. So here's tonight's question. If 5 seconds of missing oxygen would flatten every city on Earth, how much of the world around you do you think depends on something you've never once thought about? And what else is quietly holding everything up? Every question creates a new reality, and reality is just one version of the truth. Every possibility deserves exploration. The next one begins with a single question. What if? Subscribe and explore what comes next.